Taking it to the streets, oh yeah, taking it to the streets.
Levi?
Hey.
Hey there.
Good. Hi.
You want to say your line?
I'm Levi Armstrong. This is Taken to the Streets.
This week, we took it to the streets of downtown Northampton to hear people's thoughts on the increase in Asian hate crimes occurring across the world. The tragic events that have unfolded in the Atlanta area this week has set off a new wave of fear and outrage among Asian Americans. Already traumatized by a rising tide of hate, Asian Americans have been living in fear for months. Anti-Asian hate crimes are up to 150% during the pandemic.
So over the summer, we all saw the intense call for social justice for Black Americans, but at the actual time, and I can prove the statistics, the number of violent acts committed against Asians was higher than the number of acts committed against Blacks. Should the call for justice for Asians been just as prevalent for Black Americans?
Yes, absolutely. I think the call for justice to end violence against every minority and every person affected by systemic racism in America should be just as prevalent as one another. However, there has been a long-standing systemic oppression of Black people, which is very prevalent specifically in police brutality. And so this summer, the momentum surfaced behind the killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and many other Black Americans. And while it is really important that each minority not be targeted by violence, of course, each movement needs its own space without being pitted against each other.
What is the best way to combat this issue?
First and foremost, as an educator, I guess, I would say education. There's a lot of history involved in terms of racial groups between white Americans and Asian Americans. It looks differently depending on geographical location. The West Coast and the East Coast, very different histories there.
With acts of violence still occurring across the country against Asian Americans, hundreds of protests have broken out condemning this extreme violence. Asian communities have been rattled by this discrimination, and with COVID numbers slowly declining, we have yet to discover if the blame of the COVID-19 virus will slowly go away. Thanks so much for watching. See you next week.